Hey, just to let you guys know, for this class, the acrylic paints that I used were ultramarine blue, primary magenta, titanium white, and black. The canvas I used was a 16 by 20 inch canvas, but I would say you could easily sub it for an 11 by 14 or anything else in a similar proportion or size ratio. Also a note for the magenta paint, I would say if you don't have magenta, do not use red. You should use rose, some kind of pink, something that will mix well with the ultramarine blue. We found that using the ultramarine blue with red kind of made it super dark, and when you made your other colors, mixing it kind of went gray. So look for primary magenta or use something like a rose or pink. All right, ultramarine. On your brush, we have it. So what I like to normally do when I'm teaching is we divide the canvas up into thirds. These are imaginary thirds, you won't actually see them. This one I'd say though is closer to, we're gonna start with the, right around the top, maybe like top third-ish. So, all right, so this is where we're gonna start our spiral. It's gonna be like, it's kind of like on the first third from the left and the first third from the top. Right around there. So it's a blob. And we're going to bring it up a bit. And remember, we're gonna keep this, it's kind of like an ear shape, kind of like this, or maybe like even the question mark. Yeah, so keeping that shape in mind, we're going to bring it up to the top. And I'm being very loose with my brushes. Like it's not going to be straight, and it's not, I'm keeping the cloud motion in mind. So like every brush stroke I make is kind of leading towards going into that spiral shape, right? And again, we're going to have so many layers on this piece that that the first few strokes we make, we're probably not even going to be visible by the end, to be honest, if we do this properly. All right, and then it's going to come down again here on the right corner. You can go ahead and fill this. Again, when you're filling anything here, you want to keep that big spiral shape in mind. So, yes, thank you.
Better with Zoom?
Zoom seems to work, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You can fill this in as you go on the corner. And again, I'm not brushing, this way. I'm going with the spiral feel. So as if the whole thing is like, it'll make a difference later on when we start blending. And then when it comes down to the right-hand side, there's a little bit of a bump here. It's like a little wave about at the halfway, a little higher than the halfway mark. And I fill it in. And then swinging around. Now for the bottom part, it's about, I'd say quarter from the bottom. And it's going to continue that curve shape. Like so. And it's going to go up. And then make a little hill on the left. Like that. That is our first basic structure line. And I will fill that in. You can also, you have a pretty good idea, like, right, that image, what it's going to look like, but it's also up to your own artistic interpretation. The structure lines, I will let you know if something is like, if something that you do will severely affect the overall image of it. But for this first line, it's pretty loose because we're going to be covering it at some point. This is more of that big spiral shape flow guide. It's like the underpainting, basically. I probably could have used a bigger brush, but that's okay. I'm leaving a little bit of a gap here, and that's for this There's a little peekaboo window here of magenta that'll come through later. If you didn't leave that there, that's okay. You can always put the magenta on top of it. But I am leaving it open over here. We'll add it next. There's a little bit of a line here as well. Kind of like the little crest of another wave there. Right here. And then you can go ahead and fill in the bottom right corner, keeping in mind to keep that, even though it's the corner, you don't want all your strokes. What happens when you do that is, like, when you're filling in a corner and you're thinking too much about the shape of your canvas and you're just like painting up and down to match the corner, you're essentially flattening your piece. You don't want to do that. You want to imagine that they're continuing off of the canvas in every direction. So because this is like a giant moving cloud shape, we want to simulate that. So when you're approaching a corner or the edge of the canvas, you don't want to mirror or mimic that hard shape here, because if I just did up and down, eventually it frames your work in a way that you don't want it to frame it. So when you get close to the edge, you kind of just pretend that the edge isn't there. You just kind of let it fly off the edge without making too much of a mess, because sometimes the paint does fly. It happens. Oh, my reference, I did have a little peekaboo window up here, but I totally painted over it. That's okay. That's okay. We're gonna have so many layers. In this case, I would probably have it go up, because it's going to be eventually, it would continue this like imaginary, whatever. Yeah, if it were to go down, it would, yeah, so like, yeah, something like that. If this were a bigger canvas, it would be like, whoosh, like that, with the sound effects. They are. If space paintings could make noises, whoosh, whoosh. I'm gonna paint my edges while I'm here. Although these edges on the right side will eventually be black, so don't worry too much about your blues. Okay. Yeah, it's just the underpainting really, and having a blue undertone for black is really helpful, because it helps the black not look so dead. I almost always I mix my blacks with blues or reds depending on the feel of the painting. So if the painting is like the Scorpius painting back there, the ones that's all red and orange and yellow and stuff, it's I never use pure black. I always mix the black with like an alizarin crimson or because it's an oil painting, so it has a lot more. I was using a lot of deep reds and browns in my black just to make it richer, because if you use flat black, it's like it almost has a sheen to it that's different than all the other colors. So the more you stick to one palette, like the more you use primary colors to mix all of your colors, the more cohesive the entire painting looks. And so that's why, like, there's a reason, like, I don't buy like the 50 colors in one set, and that's normally because if you use them individually, for some paintings it's okay, but for others you can really tell, like, they just stick out like a coloring book, but unless that's the look you're going for, and sometimes it is, but if you're going to be like, for this one, the blues and blacks, they end up like having a conversation with each other, right? One fades into the other, and then so I tend to mix them all together at different points. All right, we're going to dive into the magenta now. I'm going to get a blob of it. They will be distant neighbors on my palette, because they will talk to each other later. Nah. Actually, let me think. Wash your brush. Yeah, I think so. We're not using purple just yet. Yes, wash your brush. If you have CAD red, just use it instead of magenta, and you'll be fine. it will be more, it'll be less on the purple side. Same brush, yes. There you go. That's thinking ahead. That is thinking ahead. All right, so same brush, clean brush. Grabbing some magenta. I use this giant tub of Dessert student grade acrylics. They've never steered me wrong. This is my favorite color right here, primary magenta. I use it all the time. I like it better than red. Like you can swap it for red, but I find it makes more pink purples, if that makes sense. So my purples, Amelia, what you'll notice is you might need to add some, when we go into the lighter pinks and purples later, you might need to add some white, because what ends up happening with Cad Red and Ultramarine is you'll get black. You'll get something very dark. So, yeah. So now we're essentially, you can fill in everything else with magenta, but I don't want you, again, filling it out like a painter painting a wall, right? We're going to be describing the form. And for this, it still will be the spiral. We're moving from, this is our center, which is the furthest point away in the background. That's where our little star pearl will hang out. Maria called it, she called it a pearl, I think. I think it was her that did that. She's like, yeah, it's like holding a little pearl. Like, yeah, it kind of is. So like whenever I do these, like everything kind of, I use my whole arm basically, and it helps with describing the form. Because if you do little things like this, it ends up looking like you'll still have all the colors right, but it ends up looking a bit stiffer. It just depends on the look you're going for, really. And this is more of a flowy piece. Ooh, Nebularific. You know what's funny is that I'm recording, but it's only going to record me. So, because it just grabs, I'm using OBS, the Twitch app, for to record it, and that way I get these images on the side, you know, and like the palette cam, and because otherwise if I was just using Zoom, and Zoom would just pick up on whatever camera I'm using, it would just grab one camera and it wouldn't grab all the images. That being said, it takes the audio directly from my mic, and it doesn't take it from my computer, so it only gets me. So if you guys get me saying really silly things all by my lonesome, no, not at all. Yeah, what kind of ridiculous things can we get Kina to say so that when Patreon users watch it later, I'll be like, Nebularific. It will be awesome. I think, you know what, if you're actually painting your art, that's half the battle right now. Like, if you haven't painted in a while, there you go. You know, what was it that Bob Ross says? Every day is a good day if you get to paint, or something like that. Even if it's like a bunch of swirly clouds, doesn't matter. Happy little clouds. Happy little nebula. Oh, I got a dirty brush here, but that's okay. Yeah. We're just setting up the background, so... This is the stage where you don't need to be careful as much. It's like, it is and it isn't, but yeah, these are the guidelines, and it's the It's the bones. Yeah, you know what? Like my whole 1 year of technical art training at Canterbury, and then I quit, was my teacher nailing into our heads, cover everything on your canvas before you move on to details. You have to completely cover your canvas. Like stop, starting to render out an eye and some hair before you've covered the entire thing. So the practice that helps develop is, I'm going to add this little window thing here. It helps you like not run ahead of yourself, and at the same time, like when you're painting, you don't want one area to look super really well worked and then have the rest all forgotten, and then what you're going to end up with is like a painting that looks off balance. Yes, Milo is here. You want to come say hi, baby? Oh. the little emote. Come here, baby. Oh, India, I made a cat bed in my cart. I did. It's down. Oh, are you gonna go in? They can't see you, so it's gonna look really silly on camera later. Okay, go, go, go. Oh, she's doing it. This is worth picking up a camera for. I'll use the palette cam. It's down here. There's like a, oh, there, good. Can you see her? She's exploring it. I made a bed for her. Yeah, and now I can cart her around. That was India's idea. It does now. It didn't before. That was India's idea. I'm like, I can do that. I have the same cart. I can cart her around. Oh, she's making her little biscuits. She's going for it. Oh, cats. So we are officially finished the first frame, you guys. Once you finish covering the whole thing in magenta, now it gets interesting. You could. It's It could be, but magenta often, depending on the brand, when I get the Pebeo ones, they're definitely more red. This one says, this one does say primary magenta, and it really does look a lot more red. Yeah. Quinacridone, yeah. That's a good one. In oils, that's my favorite color, quinacridone magenta. It's gorgeous, yeah. Again, it gets that that bright pink. That it's really good at doing that. All right, so I'm going to switch up the reference. Heck, whatever works, man. I have a few shades that I just don't feel like shading sometimes, and I will just buy them at the dollar store because it's faster. Yeah. Really, acrylic paint, like, it's just the amount of pigment that defines the quality. So if it's from the dollar store, it probably just has more binder and less pigment. You just have to use a bit more, so it's not like a huge difference in the quality there's a small difference. So next we are going to mix the two together. We're going to get some ultramarine. I'm looking at it on my lap here. I'm just trying to all right, what did I do next? Because, oh my goodness. All right, so on your palette, I would say start a new little neighborhood between the two. And I always think of these as little towns. Little towns. Yep, and we're starting a new one right here. And we're gonna take a little bit of ultramarine. See how that's right, yes. So mostly the red and then a tiny bit blue, because blue is so much stronger, it's more potent. It just eats up the red. And you're going to get a color that, depending on the intensity of your red or magenta, it's gonna either look almost black. And if it looks too close to black, add a bit more of the red. You want it more on the red magenta side. Yeah. Now, hopefully this is still sort of wet. We're going to start at the top of this curve here by go alongside, see how much of a difference there is between this color, this new color that we've mixed, and the first blue line that we made. Everyone's will be different. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go along the edge, kind of follow that same spiral that we did before, but you're gonna stop around the top right. And I'd say, I'd go in about, it depends on how big your canvas is, but what might help is if I do the outline on the, so what I'll do is I'll define it on its furthest part and then you can fill in the rest. So you'll know what I mean in a second, I think. This is like, it's so hard to explain, to put this into words. Basically, it's like where, if it's an ear, it's like the top part, and we're going to make it a bit darker to push it back a bit. Let me abstract terms here. So the shape I'm making on the inside of this ear is kind of like there's a bump here, and then it goes from being this way, like clockwise on this side, and then I'm going to grab, like if this curve goes this way, and then on this side it starts changing direction. So I'm kind of carving in some spots here, some parallel lines, and then I'm going to stop right around the middle. And you're just gonna have to trust me here. This is yeah. All right. I'm worried that this is going to take so long if I keep trying to explain it. Okay. Yep. Following the leader. And the reference picture. If you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Like there's like kind of, it almost looks like it's kind of scraped or pulled on the edge there. Yeah, scraped. If this were like really thick paint, you would be like just pushing it along with like a spatula, like one of those noodle grabbers. You know, like the toothy spoons you have, and you like pick up your spaghetti with it. It's like that. Oh, I've used all the best words. All the best. Okay, so that's that part. We're going to do, what did I do? Some corners, and the same thing. So I'm running out of this color, so I'm going to make some more of it. And then once you're done that inside of that scrapey part, we're going to move towards doing it on the outside of the spiral too. So I'm going to do it all the way down. And then, how did I do it here? Let's see, we have our main one. Can even extend it a bit. That. Right. And then a similar scrapey kind of action. We're going to start at the top right left corner because that might be easier, and then covering the corner again in that continuing the imaginary curve that's going off of the canvas, and we're going to come down all the way to our little waves on the bottom. Like so. Okay, let me just make. Yeah. So you want to keep it in that spiral motion. Whoop, whoop. So as far as this side, there are going to be three long pieces. One, and of course, the further out the further towards the edges of the canvas they get, the larger they get, because it's like it's a spiral coming outwards. And so the first one is going to be pretty long. It goes from the bottom down here from our wave up to the very top. So we're going to outline that. That's going to be the first one on the left. So we're gonna give that its boundary lines right around here. It's gonna go all the way up. I'm leaving a little space between the corner. We're gonna use that later. If not, then you can always add it in later, don't worry. You're gonna see that I have a lot of patterns in even my bigger pieces where I have a lot of repeated, kind of like couched together lines, and it comes from looking at a lot of like plant cells. If you've ever seen how plant cells stack, they kind of stack like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. But I'm gonna describe the motion because it might help you understand how when I do this and I repeat it. So it's like when I do a curve, this is the back of the canvas, don't worry, like whatever. I'll have a curve like this and I'll make it have a pocket, and then I will, this is a lot more apparent on some of my other pieces, like on the mural that I did, when I just kind of go nuts with abstract stuff. I kind of grow these shapes, but they're all following the big picture, right? Like that big curve. But then I play within that curve and I add separate lines. And I do this a lot without thinking. Like if I do like Zen doodles or whatever, this is kind of where my mind ends up going. And this is a personal preference, but you're gonna see it pop up a lot in my stuff. And I'm gonna try to explain it, but it's gonna be, that's like where those scrapey motions come from that follow one big direction. So it also comes from using a brush and pressing down and then lifting up again. So you'll get a lot of that if you do it lightly first and then press down and then lightly again. And that, it's like a perfect shape because they all nestle into each other, right? So like when I'm doing a piece like this, they do that around here. You can start to see where it's like it's a small piece that's tapering and then it gets bigger and then it gets smaller again, and that helps me describe the form a little better. So it'll pop up a lot. For now, yeah, well, it's I don't know how I ended up doing that, but whatever. It's just, style emerging out of things. Exactly, yeah. Well, I did do, yeah, because you're using the shape of the brush, right? So it's like when I would do these forms, I would press harder as I lean into a curve and then let go as I get further away, and it would automatically make that kind of shape. So we want this, there's going to be one big one here, and then it'll taper here near the top, and then we're going to have it's going to have two more little peaks. And so one is big, here's the medium one, and then the small one should be closer to our first blue spiral. Gotta mix more of my color here. Is that a sneeze? Bless you. If it was a sneeze. If not, I take it back. I'm kidding. I think this is covered. We'll say it's covered. Okay, so we have 1, 2, and 3. Because this is all going to be in the middle here. It's going to be much lighter, so we're going to leave it red or magenta or whatever. And then on the bottom, we're going to start mimicking or mirroring those shapes as well. So first, every time I see a bit of a dip here that looks empty, I'm always tempted to put something in there. And I did in this one too. So what I have is a little bit of a pouch thing here, like a little blob that tapers off like that. And then another one right at the bottom, and this is going to be this wave shape here. It's kind of a triangle, and it's gonna, it kind of pushes, it's more in the foreground, and it's gonna push all this backwards to make this stuff look like it's far away. We're gonna bring this little wave to the front, and we're gonna do that with the same color, just that purpley color. And it's kind of towards the bottom third, and there's a little crest of the wave. So it looks like a little, it actually looks like a little shark. Just hanging out. Little baby shark in space. Because why not? It can be any shape, really. In some of my pieces, I have like a cloud that comes up, and I bring the highlight right behind it to push it forward a little bit. And in this shape, it happened to look like a shark. Okay, that works too. Oh, okay, yeah, I see it. Oh, there it is. Yeah. What's fun about these ones is they almost work in any direction too. The space stuff. Yeah, that's true. There is no up. The enemy's gate is down. Yeah. Alright, and what else did I do to this? I added a little bit to this side here, accentuating these curves, like so. And then here I have another little shape. I like that's cool too. People see so many different things in my pieces. Like, I've had people see people, like women, faces, animals. They're like, oh, I see whatever. And I'm just like, of a baby. Yeah, like a womb, you know? Now let's see if I can... I think next I started going lighter and adding... Yeah, we'll start making a light purple. So grab white, and we're gonna complete our little... Well, actually, no, we'll use black again after later, but for now, I would say grab some white and add that to your canvas. I mean, your palette. Okay. So, I did wash my brush. I have to, like, mentally, yes, I washed my brush, and now I'm playing around in the white. I'm mixing the white on the edge of the purpley color that we have. And then I took the light purple color and did it along the right side top edge of the painting. I'm just doing a voiceover now because I was talking to a lot of the people who are actually in the class, and we were being silly. Yep. Oh my goodness. Well, as long as you're still using, don't introduce any new colors and it'll be fine because you're blending it with what's already there. As long as it's like the same family of color that you have already, it should be okay. And there are a lot of, you know, brownish nebulas out there too. As long as you have some of the original red coming through at some point, it won't get totally browned out. So what I'm using now is my purpley color with a bit of white, and I'm going in and kind of filling in those scrapey marks that we had earlier. And again, keeping that that curve direction going. And following the curve down. Just, yeah, if something doesn't quite go as planned, you just roll with it. It's really more about the direction that the brushstrokes are in and having occasional colors like that are kind of woven in between each other. It's we're not painting anything figurative here, so you can really take it in any direction. And in the end, when we add the black to frame it and the stars are going on there, you very much don't notice if you made any mistakes with like actual stuff in the space background, because once you have the star there and the bigger elements, a lot of this stuff fades into the background. because we're only on the second stage, so like it will be very much in the background later. So don't worry. So I have the right hand side. Exactly. That's okay. That's kind of what mine is. It's definitely almost like a gray, pinkish. Is it not opaque enough? I have like 2 types of white. Oh no. That's not fun at all. Chunky white is not useful. Oh my goodness. Well, try mixing with a little bit of water and hope for the best. I'm moving into the left-hand side. Oh, yuck. Just go with it. Just roll with it. You'll be fine. I'm filling in the whitish, the lighter color, all the way up to our little shark fin thing. Should be the same, in the same neighborhood of the color, the whitish, pinkish, purplish that we have. Because like on my palette right now I have four things, right? I have my blue, the white, the pure blue, the magenta, which is kind of dirty, and then this color here, which is the white mixed with the blue and the magenta. It's kind of a baby of all 3 of them. I'm going to fill it in using longer strokes to... I'm not going all the way to the edges right now. I'm just kind of like all the way of the darker edges. I'm not quite pushing it. But I am around the little shark fin shape. It's going all the way around it. And it's going to curve up. And we're creating like a little cradle for our eventual baby star. Maybe it is, a womb. Some birth imagery here. I mean, a lot of these nebulas are like basically nurseries for stars. Basically. All the gases collect and they keep swirling until they compress and then create a star. So it works. The analogy works. Exactly. And then, alright, so here I have like this lumpy shape that comes down from the spiral, the blue part. I'm going underneath it, sticking pretty close to it, and then I have like this almost like an elephant head and a trunk going on here. There we go. Cool. Got some shapes going on. I can see you guys are making shapes. No, it's all good. They're all gonna look so different. Yeah, you'll get your own. Well, Anita already has like a very definitive style on her own paintings. They're very graphic, and like your outlines are always really crisp, so it'll show, whatever you're used to doing. Even like I can almost tell by seeing people's handwriting too. Like I can almost relate who painted what just by looking at their handwriting. Because it is evidence of how you use your hands. So right now what I'm doing is I'm making a slightly darker shade something between this corner color here and the white-ish pink that we had. And if you look at the sample picture, it's like, I don't want this to be as harsh of a transition. I want to soften it a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm getting a color that's somewhere between the darkest dark and the lightest light, and I'm going and softening this shape. Oh no. Okay. It's okay. It's just paint. I don't need the. You tell him. Be like, I'll paint you badly if you make me screw up. Oh my goodness. Milo is still in her bed. She's super cute, and I'm gonna take a picture and I'll show you guys later because she's being super cute. Milo in the paint cart. And I'll have to do it in response to India's post of Wally in her paint cart. You're not doing it wrong. You're still painting. Then you're doing great. What? I'm using water too. Every time oops, that's a drink. Sometimes like I'm doing the edges of the lighter color to soften it, but sometimes if my paint that I already laid down is still has dried too much, I'll dip my brush in some water, get the same color I was using, and then just dab at the corners again. Yeah, that's perfect. Did you dip in your drink or your paint water? Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, I tipped my entire tea mug on my desk the other day, and I had to rescue all the things, like all the wires, and I was just like, emergency. It happens. It's not often that it happens, but you need one of those like sippy cups that don't tip over for your paint water. Those are super handy. I've seen they have like snack cups that are bowls, and that like no matter how the toddler is tipped and they're holding this bowl, it levels itself. It's pretty cool. Yes. Tipsy bowls. Yep. They're great. So of course. It's like, for drunk people. That's true. Or if you just have a really busy workspace, because I have to, I have a lot of liquids on my desk right now. Typically, I don't let myself have this many open containers nearby. But on a regular day, it's like having something that would be foolproof and never tip over would be really lovely. Oh, don't be angry. You're here and you're painting. One of them. You still have to clean up your paint and brushes though, so don't get too excited about messes being done. Although I often it's horrible. I'll just leave them in the water and then overnight, and then I'll end up with like bent bristles. So don't do that. Don't do what I do. Yeah, a lot of ruined brushes that way. Overnight. Oh, days. Months? No. Days, maybe. So basically what I have been doing is all the parts that were white, I made like a medium color between the whitish purple, and I added just more blue and magenta to make it like an in-between color between this color here and the lighter color. So I just Yeah, it's like a medium color. It's to blend the two, just to make the transition a little less harsh, really. I'd say it's right in the middle. Like it's a 50-50. It's like if I, like over here you can probably see the difference. It's probably, I'd say, yeah, halfway between the two. Actually, one of the things that we did in class was, which is actually really handy, it's a value chart, and you cut it out and you put it up onto your canvas to see what level of darkness it is. And when you're doing a black and white painting, it's really handy. And I'll show you because, like, when I say 50-50, like, it's a scale of 10. So, like, I did a little cube thing, and then this is the chart. So when I say, like, okay, your blackest black is only going to show up in the creases, like the little crevices, or that's the only time you use pure black, like over here. And then the shadow is like a 4 or a 5, and the background is a 7, and the front face of the cube is a 1, you know, pure white. So, like, it's really handy. Like, if I'm saying, like, okay, this is your darkest dark, that's your 1, and then the lightest light is around here, and that's your 10. This really is like a 50, right? Values are fun. I'm gonna say in, oh, it is 8:30. Okay, I need a pee break very soon. But I'm going to finish up this medium color. We're gonna add some, let me see. It's a lot more textured in my sample, so really as long as it follows this shape and it's around these colors, you're golden. It's all good. So yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit. Okay, I need to mix more of it first. All right, a little bit more of it around the shark fin. Ooh, that's really light. I need that darker. Around there. Okay. Yeah, a little bit around there just to make it. Yes, eventually. If you want, they're still here. Yes, this is still the base red. So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm looking at my sample here. I have a bit of the darker, because we want our startup really to pop up, to pop out a little more there. So I'm gonna mix a color that's a little darker than what we were just using, and then, although for you, yours is like super red, right? I would leave it then, because your base red is a nice color. You don't want to lose all of it. But with this magenta, my pure magenta on the plain white canvas is almost obnoxiously bright, so I have to kind of dumb it down. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, because when you put your star on that, it'll look nice with the red background, as opposed to mine needs a bit of a dumbing down. Dimming, dumbing, whatever. We're only we're like halfway through this actual steps, so there's still a lot to add. You're not allowed to give up. We're holding you accountable. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm adding a little bit on the crest of the blue. Again, this is just kind of still my medium whatever color. And then I'm gonna have a potty break. I'll be right back. Now's a good time if you need to get something. Take some breathing exercises if you need them. Sir, yes. Okay, I'll be right back. It's all good. I'm gonna mute in 2 places so you don't hear me going to the bathroom. So after the break, I added a whole bunch more magenta to my palette because I had run low and I had mixed it all up a bit too much with the white and blue. So I refreshed the magenta on my palette and then I added it to make a new darker purple. So I took the magenta from one side and then I added it to a spot between the magenta and the blue. And I mixed a darker purple. So then I go in with this darker purple and I'm adding it to the top left corner and I'm darkening any areas that kind of transition from the light to the dark areas that we already had established. So I'm adding it here to the top left corner. I also had added some to the bottom little shark fin shape and as well to the top middle area along that blue spiral. I'm going back over all of the areas that had the deep magenta and putting in my purple. So any place that I kind of had the dark blue swirl, I'm adding this purple color in between the two. So here I'm adding the purple and kind of lightening some of the really dark purple that was there right along the blue swirl, just so that the transitions aren't so harsh. I'm just going all the way up to the, covering a bit of the really dark area on the top left side and kind of blending it as I go. Remember, you can always, like if the paint underneath is completely dry, you can always blend it with a little bit of water to help ease that transition again. So the look we're going for is just so that there aren't any really, really harsh lines. And here I'm still continuing to add that medium dark purple that I made with magenta and ultramarine together. And I'm mixing it in the top right corner now along the side of the blue spiral. So I'm also kind of just filling in. I'm trying to cover all of the magenta areas, the pure magenta areas, with this purple to give it a little bit of depth and because we're not keeping the magenta undertones that we did at the beginning. Most of it's going to end up getting colored. And again, I'm just having long, drawn-out conversations with the guests in the class. So a lot of I was just painting without really giving instructions. I was just chatting. So yeah, I'm basically just trying to ease the transition between the darkest darks and the lightest lights. So anytime there's like a really stark contrast, I'm trying to mellow it out by mixing a color that's kind of somewhere in between, and then painting between those two extremes. I feel like what I'm going for right now, as far like I'm looking at the reference and I'm seeing we have a medium area here and then we have a lighter area here and then this lighter area mirrors this one here. So as long as those elements are there and then your bottom is dark and your top is dark, you're on the right track. Everything else in between is just like I'm going in a similar direction and I normally grab a color that's close to whatever its neighbors are. So in this case, it's like, purplish whatever, and, I'm going between them and I'm kind of just like playing around with it and keeping that direction going. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain. So I'm going to look at the next step, which is around, we're kind of almost, so now I'm going to focus in on this little, I'm going to switch up the reference image. We're going to focus on the little resting place for our star. Our star cradle, because that's a thing. So I'm making a lighter blue, grabbing some of the, I'm never using like pure blue at this point. It has a little bit, because I don't wash my brush very often, so it's carrying a little bit of the magenta in it. So I'm making like, it's almost a blue-gray, but it has a little bit of the magenta. I don't know if you guys can see how that looks, but it's like bluish. And then we're gonna just give her, let's see what we're gonna do this. Following the innermost, like the dark spiral, the first line that we did, we're going to make a little mark underneath that first spiral and then continue it in a little curve like that. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Hopefully. And I'm gonna curve it. It's like a little curly Q. Can you see that? Yeah, a little curly Q in the middle. I'm gonna fill it. This will be the background for the star. There we go. I added like a little more, a line on the outside of it a little bit as well. Kind of like ripples coming out from it, but not all the way around. Just, again, this whole shape here mimicking that rhythm. I am really eager to see what this recording is going to sound like with me talking. I might just like mute what I have done in the past, like on a few separate occasions, like a class that I taught that Amelia, you guys were in, and I just forgot to turn the mic back on in the recording, and I have like just the whole second half of the video I had only the image. That's always fun. And I just do a voiceover. So, worst case, if I can't salvage the audio, which I'm pretty sure I can, because it's not like I'm talking over you guys. But yeah, it's happened. I've encountered so many different technical difficulties, although this is the first time I had to switch to a completely different platform, so I'm really glad that I had my Zoom already set up. Oh, that was terrifying. Exactly. It's a good night when I don't have to worry about those kind of things. I'm putting some of the bluish color near the bottom half of our swirly whirlies on the left hand side. In my reference, it's not really there, but you know, I just feel like doing it. I feel like the blue on its own, just sitting in the middle there, isn't quite balanced, so I'm gonna add some again, some, you know, artistic freedom marks. Who cares? It's like, I'm just gonna make it look colorful. Often I'll look at it and I'll be like, if I see that it's off balance color-wise, not so much value-wise, I'm like, okay, I'll add a bit more blue here so that it's mirrored. It's very much an intuition thing. Can't quite explain it. But balance is a good way to, you know, there's blue here, I'll put blue there too, so it's not lonely. And so, aren't we all? So I am having a similar, I guess we'll do it over Zoom, right? So like on Friday, the 5th of February, for our fun with friends, fun friend 5th February, I had to think of all the fun F words, all the alliterations. Yeah, I couldn't think of anything that had to do with crafting though, like creating, that's all the C words, or the K sounds, creating, crafting with an F. Yeah. Fabric? Finger painting, yeah. It could be any manner of things, yeah. But yes, I would love to do this where it's not me guiding, where it's just a hangout and you bring whatever you want. And then we can do that like once a month or something. I don't know. See how that goes. For me, it's just an excuse to, hang out with other people and do art and make a night out of it like we're doing right now. But, you get to bring whatever. Or don't bring anything and just drink. Who knows? You just do whatever you want. It's your social night. I agree. Well, especially in these times. Yeah. Alrighty. I think I'm going to move on to the black to bring on some space. Some real space colors. Yeah, no rush. I'm just kind of trying to mentally map out where I'm going to go next. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing saying you have to finish it in this setting, because what I often end up doing is once, like for the Christmas one that I did, like the Christmas lights, when I was finished the sample piece after I taught the class, I spent another 2 hours with it on my own, and I made it like, because it's different, when you're not, on camera or you're not having to explain it. I took what we had left over and then I'm like, you know what, I think I want to change this and that. And then I ended up giving it to my mom for Christmas. And I felt like I had to change a few things before I did that. But this could even just be like your starting point, or if you don't like it and you want to change a whole bunch of things, like it's your painting, right? Like there's nothing saying it has to look like mine when it's done. Yeah, I'm going to dig up my black and start doing the outer edges. Again, the black is mostly to frame it. Wherever there was blue, basically it will be adding some black. I don't want it to overpower, but it will be where the stars live on the outside, on the outskirts. Stars will show up better on the black anyway. Okay, we're around where our very, very first marks were, so near the middle. I'm going to put some, well, I'm putting it right next to the blue, so yeah, actually, let's mix some blue in there too. I'm grabbing my, thank you, I have black and blue. Don't be scared, don't be scared, don't be scared. No comparing. No one's gonna be looking at yours next to mine. Okay. Well, you can mix some blue in there too. I want to get rid of this glare. It's bothering me. Too late. It's fine. There's a bit of a glare. It's bothering me. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, we will get lots. I'm going along this spiral. I'm doing smaller brush strokes because this is like, well, it's a darker color. You don't want to, splash it in huge amounts. Mostly following the blue that we did. We're covering the blue. The blue is a guideline earlier. It was. I'm making it branch off. I don't know if you guys can see. Ugh, if I can bring it closer, if that helps. Ooh, nope, not that way. So, yeah, so it's not like a straight line. I'm kind of like anywhere I had a shape that was going in a certain direction, I'm kind of just trying to mimic it. So like this is curved this way. Oh, it's not focusing. It's focusing on my hair. Okay, we're not going to do that. Sorry. It likes to fixate on things that are really close. So following the blue, making like a little trail. Not like yeah, like I'm making mine in kind of like spiky, but not. Sorry, that's like the worst description ever. I'm sorry. Spiky, but not. It's a cloud. Again, using I don't want to make it like all solid black. I'm leaving some pockets of color to show through. And now I tell you. Can you see though? They're almost like tree branches. Kinda. If okay, so worst case, you're gonna bring it all the way to the corner, but right, leave little cracks here and there. Yeah, to the corner. Leave little windows of color, because this black is intense, right? It's dark, and we don't want to cover all of the work that we've done, so we want to leave a few little pockets. It's almost like tree branches, like a big, squiggly, gnarly tree that's coming in almost. It's not a tree though. Smoky, perfect. Yeah, my original is more like that because I worked on it in a different kind of way. Like I smudged it a lot more. It's really hard for me to explain the blending and the smudging though. It's easier for me to explain it in terms of of shapes, but perfect, yeah. Good. No, yeah, like you should listen to yourself, because this is definitely, I'm describing things that I do, but those things have developed from years of a certain way that I draw or paint, so I don't expect you guys to mimic that. I'm more kind of guiding you as to these different pockets of color and how they will contrast and create a big overall shape, but how you treat your edges, like I said, it's like that handwriting thing again, right? So it'll be like a different kind of style for everyone, and they'll all look very different, but at the same time, it's like black in this general area. As long as you have this shape going, that's pretty much what we're going for. And what's that? Yes, I'm glad too. I'm getting pretty good at not getting paint on my... Oh, never mind. Oh, that was... I'm going to color over it because I'm wearing black pants. I'm going to color over it in black. Alright, so I'd say the only thing you don't want to do is to bring black in this middle area here. As long as you're not bringing black in this area where the star is going to live, you'll be fine. And we don't want black around the shark fin either. And we don't want it up here. So if you stay away from those spots, it will end up... I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. I'm just going to say it'll look more like mine. So if that's what I'm going for, is to keep the black on the corners, the edges. And typically you can use the blue that we did at the very beginning as a guideline of where to put your black. You can even, I did have the blue poking through in some spots. And sometimes it looks cool. It depends on your painting. Oh, I should not have put black there. That's okay. I'm painting my edges now. Look at that. Or I have one edge painted. The edge closest to me is always the best painted, of course. The underside is very, very rarely painted black. All right. So I'm going in all of the corners except for the top left on mine are painted black. And the only reason the top left one isn't is because it's like the furthest of the spiral, right? So like this arm comes around here and goes up, and if there were black, it would be over here. This imaginary spot. Imaginary space. No, it's lovely. I love the bit of human touch. Imaginary lines. But all everyone else is going to hear in the recording is me singing by myself. I'm leaving this little magenta area to poke through. Here and there are little peekaboo spots. Oh, you probably can't even. But cool. And now I am mixing some of my reddish magenta with black because I feel like it. And the areas that it touches on nearest my little shark fin thing, I'm using magenta mixed with black around there. Just to, again, like softening some of those edges like we did earlier with the lighter areas. I'm doing the same thing with the black parts, just so it's not too harsh of a transition. What I did was I just jumped directly from the black to the magenta and made a new little swatch right here. So I did not wash it. So I guess it would be dry, but it's loaded up with magenta mixed with black. So it's dry of water, but it's quite loaded with paint. And now I'm just continuing to fill in any of the areas that were supposed to be super dark and covering them with black. I'm trying to follow that long spiral shape that we started off at the beginning, and I'm not covering all of the blue areas, but I'd say most of them are getting covered. Anything that I want to push the darkness a little bit, I'm painting not right up to the edges, but mostly towards the center of the shapes to push them back a little bit. I think my kids knew that number off the top of their head from reading Guinness Book in their spare time. It's really funny. We only have one Guinness Book of World Records, and it's from it's my husband's. It's Brad's, and he had it. It's the year 2000 one, and so they're reading. I just can't imagine. Like, to me, year 2000, wasn't that long ago. But to the kids, they're like, this was 10 years before we were born. Like, all these records are all different now. Like, they're just blown away and laughing how it's like so old. Like, oh my gosh, my babies. I know, I have that a lot, like when I'm painting and I'm in the middle, especially for bigger pieces, and I look at it on my webcam and I'm like, oh, it's so much nicer on the camera. Like, oh, why is that? Let's do it. I have my my white and my smaller brush. So this is a smaller round brush. It's pointy. I have, and I mixed a little bit of pink with it, or your red or whatever, but it is mostly white, okay? So at this point, when you do a star and you want it to be a bigger star later, you start small. Okay, there's a dot there, you can barely see it though. You start small and then you slowly make it bigger from that dot, because you don't want to start it big and then you say, oh, it's in the wrong place, or it's like, it ends up being not great. So I go in a circular motion from that tiny dot and I make it bigger and bigger until it's it's kind of like the same, like from our blue circle area, it's almost the same ratio as like a yolk in an egg. Like, I don't want to make it the whole blue area. I mean, my canvas is 16 by 20 and it's about the size of my thumbprint, but like, it really depends on your canvas. And the reason I'm not using pure white right away is because I want to give it more of an illusion that it's glowing. It probably looks like pure white, but, ugh. So like that, it's almost white. And then when you add pure white on top, it'll look even brighter. It gives it that illusion of like really glowing. So that's why I almost always do the first layer of a star slightly darker, like slightly off-white. And then I'll go in after, once it's dry, with pure white on top. I made it slightly pink, but actually I probably should have done it slightly blue now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, because like, yeah, maybe I will do the blue instead. Let me see how that looks. It is in the blue area. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yes, but first I'm making this wave thing stick out a little more. And what I did for that is I put white, pinkish white, right behind it. Can you see that? It makes it stand out a little. So I have, yeah, pinkish white. Unless you have blue really close, then use blue. Pinkish white. And I'm outlining the, here, maybe I can. I'm kind of looking at my reference, making like a crest of a wave kind of thing. You see that? I'm kind of doing it in little bumps so that it looks a bit more like a cloud. I guess it could be a cloud. Space clouds. Yeah, who knows? Whatever. Like there are no rules at this point. It's just to make it pop. Just make it pop. Pop, pop, pop. And then when I do this kind of shape and it's bumpy, it also could be like a bunch of stars clustered. So like sometimes I will make stars from that area kind of trail. So like I have some and then I make them go closer and closer towards this wave thing. You see that? Look how sparkly it is. And you make it, yeah, so like far away over here, but then as they get closer, it's like they're clustering and they're making like this crest of a shiny wave of, I don't know, abstraction. I don't know what words to use. I'm struggling so hard. Oh, okay. And then for like the really highlighted parts, like here and there, just use like your purest white with either a clean brush, or I tend to just load up more white on top of it on my current color, so that my brush is like 3 colors right now. But the most recent one is white, so I'm going to use that for the little dots. There we go. In my, let's see. That is fun. Some of these curves I have defined with the light pinkish, almost white color. So I have some around here, just really lightly. You can see that, sort of. Some here too. Just kind of accentuating some of these curves. Kind of like highlights in hair. It's subtle. You don't want too many of them, because too many will be overkill. Like my biggest problem is stopping once I start playing with white at the end of a painting, because that's my favorite part, is adding all these highlights and these stars and details. And it's really hard not to get carried away, but selectively you find the parts that that kind of define the movement. So the wave is a big one because you want it to come out. And then the star as well. So I think this might be almost dry here. No, not at all. Forget that. If your star is dry, then you can add, I'm just going to do it anyway, you can add pure white in the middle of it. Almost to the edge. And then it looks more like it's glowing, because you should have that level of like background, light off-white and then pure white, so it's like that gradient that leads to the middle. That's like the bright part. And then the actual shiny marks that happen on these pictures from NASA are actually just lens flares, and they're due to the shape of the lens. It's not actually like stars are shaped that way. And that's another, I mean, it looks cool, and we're so used to seeing stars that way that that's just how I paint them now. And I add the, it's like a crosshair. I'll do one line. You might need a smaller brush for this, or you can use the very tip of like a toothpick, or like this is too thick. I might have to, anyway. The rule is they should all be in the same direction. So if you do your shiny marks towards the corners of your canvas, then if you do it again for another star somewhere else, it's normally in the same directions. If you look at a photo like that, it's, yeah, make them point towards the corners, and they all go in the same direction. And that's just an effect from the camera. We can pretend stars really twinkle that way. In our world, they can. Yeah. It's so sparkly! The white is really my favorite part. Okay. Yes, I was just about to say now it's time to go nuts with your stars. I have them focused on the black areas just so that they don't look too, so that the black areas don't look too empty. But you can have them anywhere and everywhere. I like to do them in groups of 3 or 4. I use the tip of the brush. I haven't washed the brush, I just dip it in white because you're really just dipping it and then transferring that dip of color. You're not really pushing it in, you're not blending the stars, you're just tapping them. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah. If you're, I don't know, I think some of you might have been here for the class that I did with the trees and the star backgrounds. It was kind of like an aurora borealis or like Milky Way galaxy. Anyway, I tried to do like the splatter technique, and it just failed miserably because I don't have the right brush for it. It's really hard. Yeah. It seems like it would be, but I've heard that the best way to do it is with a toothbrush. Yeah, so I've never actually done it successfully, but it gets so messy. Oh my goodness. But it is, I know a lot of people who do, at least, okay, a lot. I know at least 2 other artists who paint space. And I watch their Instagram, and they do the splatter technique. And I'm like, well, I guess it works for you. It doesn't work for me, so. An elastic? How? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I love it. How did that work out? Messy. It was messy. Yeah. I had to clean the wall behind my painting that I did at that time. It was pretty bad. Okay, yeah, I'd love to see it. That looks really good. Oh, that is awesome. That was... I love it. Can you take a picture of it with your phone later? Thank you. That's awesome, Sally. Thanks so much for joining. I guess we are going way over time because we started 40 minutes late, but yeah. Yeah, this is just the beginning. I'm totally wired, so yeah. We can stay here. It's fine. I'm not going anywhere. I can officially end the recording at this point, but if you guys want to keep hanging out here, I'm going to go get another drink after I finish these stars. That's right. Yeah, you guys still have quite a few hours left in your day. Some of you West Coasters. After this, it's done, right? So this is pretty much... It doesn't look terribly too much like my reference, but it is pretty much done. Oh, I'm going to stop recording. Officially saying, thank you guys for painting with me, and I'll see you next time.